So at the end of the episode 3, Xscape meets SWV down at the studio, at the rehearsal hall. They're supposed to be making a decision on the show slash tour. At this point, I don't know if it's a show or a tour, but anyway, they're supposed to be making a decision regarding whether they're going to do it. So everything's going good. Tocha seems like she's going to be a little bit resistant. She throws her hand in there, so everybody's all in. So everybody's celebrating. This is where the question started rolling for me. So Kandi talks about Xscape headlining versus this being a co-headline type of situation. I don't know what their business breakdown is, but just watching the show, it seems like they came together on this particular reality show to do this concert slash tour or whatnot. So the assumption as the viewer looking would be that they are going to, co-headline because this is a collaborative event. It wasn't collaborative for Kandi. Kandi's emotions are tied to financial security and stability. So she doesn't have a problem talking about finances. She doesn't really care how direct and arguably rude she can come off as long as the result ends up being what she wants it to be. So when she brings up the fact that Xscape has always headlined all of their shows, Lily looked immediately pissed. They turned over to Coco. Coco looked pissed. And Kandi was explaining that this is just how their thing is set up. Like, they're not going to take less. SWV's managers were in there, were just like, well, in order for it to be fair, we felt like, the two of you co-headlining the show would be the natural response. Just as a viewer looking at it, I'm just like, Kandi was damn wrong for that. Because this is supposed to be SWV and Xscape together. Collabing together. They're doing this reality TV show together. And it's all about them having this concert together. So it's collaborative to me. But the flip side is that if Xscape had some type of representation, and I'm like, where's y'all manager? Anyway, if they had a manager there, that manager would have had the same type of conversation. So I don't know that it would have played out like that on TV, where it looked horrible on Kandi's end. But if they had their management there, then Xscape as a group could have removed themselves from that tough conversation. Now, here's where it gets interesting for me. SWV is respected throughout the industry, like by all the heavy hitters. They're one of the pioneers. You can't take away from their impact and their accomplishments. So I struggle to agree with Kandi when she says things like they don't have the fan base or what have you. And, her and Tiny looking at it from the perspective that they both made a name for themselves in the reality TV world, which increases their fan base, which increases their social media presence. I get all of that. When you're talking about ticket sales for music, in my opinion, it's just a little bit different. Because when we started watching The Family Hustle and fell in love with Tiny and T.I. and their family, just watching them week to week, we knew who Tiny and T.I. was before we started watching the show. That's why we watched the show. When we was watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, let's just be honest, we were already watching. Kandi just was added on. I think I don't know if she came in at season 2. She went on the first season, just put it that way. So we were already watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, but we continued to watch definitely because Kandi from Xscape was being added to the roster. So I struggle with the whole, we've gained so many new people that didn't know us from music before, that found out that we did music as a result of our show, and now they're coming to our concerts. That was a bit of a stretch for me, because most of the women and or men that are coming to the concerts, they in that, late 30, early 40 and up range. Now, one thing that I do know for certain is that nostalgia sells. And it doesn't matter what industry, nostalgia sells. So let me find out you got Full Force and Force MDs, Changing Faces, and Jade. Let me find out they put a concert together. I'm going. So I believe that is where the overwhelmingly majority of the ticket sales are coming from. People that miss that type of music. I don't think it's from people that's watching these reality TV shows. They'll probably sit around, talk about it, but to actually be moved enough to go and get a ticket to go to a concert to hear Xscape sing and they weren't already a fan before, I don't buy it. If we had some type of metric system to tie the data for the reality TV fan base directly to concert ticket sales, then maybe we have something to talk about. But if we don't have a way to track that directly, then I really don't agree with Kandi and Tiny as it relates to that, because you can't, even though they sold 30 million back in the 90s, as y'all say, that was hard to do when there was no social media presence. So I'm sure even selling y'all 7 million was hard to do, but that was a major accomplishment. It just came off disrespectful. And for those three women to be the type of pioneers that they are in this entertainment world, it was almost like I was just kind of like above them. And that just didn't sit right. Just as a viewer, it just didn't sit right. But as I said before, I don't know the business side of this thing and what y'all already had worked out. But I do know that Mona is behind this show. So I hadn't seen Mona in a minute, but what I know of Mona is Mona wants to put out a good reality TV show, come hell or high water. What was the conversation like with Mona and SWV versus Mona and Xscape? And I know Mona is not a part of the actual concert, but if it was presented to SWV as like, hey, we're trying to do this reality show with Xscape, and it's going to be a collaborative idea, and it's going to showcase you guys being together as one on stage and just a powerhouse and shutting it down for one night only, whatever the case may be. That could have been her conversation with them. Then her conversation with Xscape, i.e. Kandi and Tiny, because they're already in the reality world, it could have been a thing like, hey, you guys are kind of the front runners, and y'all are already used to reality TV. We're going to bring SWV in, but y'all are going to be like the group on the show. And I would like to know, what was the conversation that started this whole process? Okay, so a few questions. First, do you think that it was wrong of Kandi to openly talk about Xscape headlining? Do you think that was her place, or do you think that she should have reserved that conversation for their manager? Number two, do you feel like she was disrespectful, or that's just how business is handled? And then number three, do you feel like reality TV fan base equates to concert ticket sales?